Hamadakayapi, Anin, Buju. My name is Chelsea Luger, and I'm the co-founder of Well for Culture. I'm also the team lead for our Solve application, which is called the Well for Culture Marketplace. Just as we have strived to do for the last 5 years with our Indigenous wellness consulting business, Well for Culture now seeks to expand this concept, going from services into product, which is why we want to develop a marketplace that carries all Indigenous made wellness oriented products that are specifically designed using ancestral technologies with sustainable materials that will facilitate ancestral wellness practices like movement, meditation, smudging, healthy eating, and non-toxic personal care. We aim to close the gap of health disparities in Native country, reducing lifestyle diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. Our people are suffering from these at disproportionate rates. But the good news is there's a lot of interest in Indigenous wellness and in reclaiming our ancestral health across Native country. Dozens and dozens of programs and individuals are already leading the way in these efforts. And so we truly believe that this store could be a success. This will be the first ever Indigenous owned store that sells exclusively Indigenous made products that are designed with ancestral health practices in mind. This is especially important in today's wellness world, where Indigenous culture is often appropriated or our imagery is misused. Meanwhile, Native people are not benefiting from this $4 billion industry that tends to capitalize on our imagery. But in our case, because we'll partner with Indigenous artisans who come from tribal communities all over the US and Canada, we know that the money that is profited from our products will be ultimately returned to tribal economies. I want to share with you about how I arrived at this idea in the first place. We've all seen one of these before. This is a yoga mat, and as a person who practices wellness, I own several of these and I've been using them for years. It's one of my day-to-day items that I go to facilitate my own health and wellness. And one day I thought to myself, man, as a person who advocates for the fact that we've always had movement and wellness and active lifestyles in Indigenous communities, and as a person who's seeking to reclaim health from an ancestral perspective, I thought, I wish I had an exercise mat that was created by Indigenous technologies, by Indigenous people, that I could purchase from an Indigenous company. But I didn't know what that looked like, so I started to envision it in my head. And being from the Northern Plains, the first thing that I thought about was buffalo hide, a durable, beautiful material that could be used either indoors or outdoors. In my head, I pictured a circular mat as opposed to a rectangle, because as Indigenous people, we see the world in a circular, interconnected way. And I pictured 4 directions, arrows embossed into this mat, reminding me to honor the 4 directions through my wellness practice and to honor holistic living, which is exactly how our ancestors maintained our good health, by thinking of the mind, body, spirit, and emotions when we move. So what did I do next? I contacted my friend Jamie Gentry, who is a moccasin maker in Canada. And I asked her, does this idea sound viable? And she said, yes, absolutely. And that she would love to partner with me to eventually create a product like this that could be sold to Indigenous communities to allow us to further our own movement practices with a true cultural connection. Data shows that when people see a product that feels culturally relevant or culturally significant to them, they're much more likely to purchase that product. And logical reasoning shows that if people are purchasing an exercise mat, they're more likely to exercise and to actually utilize that in their homes. So that's why we want to create an Indigenous wellness store, and it goes beyond the exercise mat. We have dozens and dozens of ideas, but to start with, we want to create what others call a meditation pillow, but what I would call a smudging pillow to facilitate neurodecolonization and Indigenous mindfulness practices. We also want to sell plates and bowls and cooking utensils that are carved from sustainably harvested wood. And we've partnered with an artist who's willing to do that for us. And then we're also interested in lower cost items that can also be used day to day, like non-toxic soaps that are scented with appropriately harvested indigenous medicines. And again, we've partnered with artists who are willing to make all of these. And in fact, we have already procured some of the lower cost items and have a small stock of them. In any case, the ideas could go on and on and on. The point is that we feel that the rest of the indigenous population who is striving to further our health and wellness deserves to have products to facilitate this that come from within our communities and that mutually benefit tribal people. We hope that you're as excited about the idea for the Well for Culture Marketplace as we are, and we thank you so much for taking our application into consideration. Miigwech.